Doing well. How are you? Good. Very good. We'll get started here in just a minute. Mel, do you know when Andrew might join us? Oh, okay. That's fine. That'll work. So I'm going to give the quick rundown here real quick then. So I've got two Google Meets windows going on. In one, I've got Jeff, Brad, and Rochelle. And then in the other, I've got Melissa and Anna, our two guests for the podcast tonight. What we're gonna do is open with I'm gonna open with some quick updates for our members, and then we'll cut to Jeff and Brad to give their quick presentation, and then after that we'll cut to Rochelle to give her quick presentation, and then we'll jump into the meat of the program with Melissa and Anna after that. How's that sound? You're in good hands. You'll be just fine. All right. I am actually going to get the show started here on my end. So stand by. You're going to hear me doing a bunch of talking and probably stuff you don't care about. So I'll let you know when it's time for you guys to talk. Jeff, how do I pronounce your last name? Apply. Okay, perfect. You guys can't see this part unless you're on YouTube.
Ooh, what a treat, feels so sweet.
All right. Hello, CANM members. Welcome to our next monthly meeting. This is the July 1st edition. We're coming to you live from Socorro this time, from my home office on our farm. We postponed an in-person meeting this time to really do some very special stuff on this episode. We'll dive into that in a minute, but first, a couple quick updates. First, we've still been working with the Cannabis Control Division on the packaging issue. As you might know, our board of directors sent two letters, one on May 11th and the other on June 11th, to Cannabis Control asking for additional updates and additional information about packaging and what they're going to do with the child safety issue. Basically, we got a response back from CCD saying everything is status quo. We told you in an April webinar what we expect which if you attended that webinar, there wasn't a lot there, just some examples of people doing bad things. So they also said if you have questions, you're really going to need to talk to an attorney or a consultant, which we've heard before. Not the greatest answer in the world, but that's where we are at this point. So we're still working on the packaging issue. That has not gone away and probably won't for some time. Second, our policy committee began meeting last week. We're going to be meeting now for the next several weeks going into September and October. So all summer long, we're working on all kinds of issues. We're working on hemp legislation to bring hemp under cannabis regulation. We're working on the most important issue to the industry in New Mexico right now, which is the cannabis excise tax. Today being July 1st and a new fiscal year for the state of New Mexico, our cannabis excise tax increased another percentage point up to 14%. So we're working on a pause and a potential rollback to 8%. That's at least that's the number we've started looking at. Cannabis excise tax is killing retailers, and really for every percentage point increase, at least in the Albuquerque area, I'm being told that retailers need to find 40 new customers a month. So if it goes up again to 15%, that's a total of 80 new customers a month that they need to find in order to maintain their current margins. So the excise tax is definitely our number one issue rolling into the legislative session next year, and that's something we're working really hard on drafting and coming to the table with our legislators. Good news, Senator Peter Wirth, who is also the Senate Majority Leader, is backing that concept so far. But we'll get in front of a couple of interim committees to make sure that's still the case. And then we're still traveling all over the state. Just got back from Clovis late last night. We had a great town hall meeting there with a bunch of operators from the Clovis area. We're still hearing some of the same concerns around packaging, around the excise tax, obviously, definitely around inspections and kind of that inspection disconnection that we've been talking about for the past couple of months. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for some issues coming out of those, but we're going to stop down in Sunland Park at the end of July and probably be up in the Farmington area a little bit before that, a little bit later this month. So keep your eyes out for our travel schedule. We're going to be all over New Mexico the next couple of months, so stay tuned. Let's get tonight's show kicked off. I've got some very special guests joining us here this evening. The first two gentlemen I'd like to introduce are Jeff Clay and Brad Villers. They're here to talk to us tonight about some interesting stuff they've got going on for your cannabis businesses. So, Jeff, Brad, you want to introduce us to yourselves and what you're working on?
Sure. I'll go really quickly and then I'll turn it over to Jeff. I'm Brad Villers. I work to bring tax mitigation solutions to high net worth individuals, high income earners, and business owners, which is why we're talking to you guys. And I think it's really interesting, just to set the stage, that Matt, you started us off with this issue of the excise tax and really eating into the revenues and the financial structure of your enterprises. And I would just encourage you to think about what Jeff's going to talk about in that context, and maybe how this could maybe not bridge that entire gap, but go a little bit of a ways to helping that situation out. So with that, Jeff, thank you.
Yeah. So, the cannabis industry is constantly facing battles on all fronts, obviously. And, one of those battles is a normal battle. It's employee attraction, employee retention, and that sort of thing. So how do you establish a foothold without constant turnover, constant churn? Well, one way to do that, of course, is offering pay raises, offering medical benefits, things of that nature. But it's not always easy. It's not always an expense that you can bring on, is offering medical benefits. And if you are offering them, then, you brace for a big rate increase year over year. So what we have here is a plan in place in which you can offer basic medical benefits to your employees, as long as they're W-2 employees. You can offer basic medical benefits to them and there's not going to ever be a cost to you. A matter of fact, as a business owner, you're going to gain almost $600 annually in tax relief by offering this plan to them. The employees themselves, they get basic medical benefits like, doctor visits with no co-pays and free prescriptions for their whole family and things like that. They're going to get these things, and by taking them, they're actually going to see more take-home pay because there's tax savings for them in this. So they save money on taxes, their take-home pay increases, and now they have some great medical benefits. So I always like to show a little bit of what we're doing here. Just, I won't take up too much time here.
Not even.
But just to show you, I work for a group called Affordicare Insurance out of Dallas, Texas. Affordicare Insurance is the marketing organization for the CHAMP plan. So the CHAMP plan is what this is called, and it's brought to you by Champion Health out of Scottsdale,
no,
Arizona.
It's not frozen.
But the CHAMP plan is the plan that's in place here.
Encountered a problem.
And we have every shape and size of employer that you can imagine, from cities and municipalities, public government type employers. We have nonprofits. We have well-known franchise groups. We have small little shops with 4 or 5 employees. We have huge publicly traded companies. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what state you're in, doesn't matter how big you are, as long as you have W-2 employees involved, we can help out quite a bit. So what the employees get is we give them what we call a CHAMP plan card. And when the employees get this card, they can use it. Now, maybe you offer medical benefits and they're on your group plan. They should still take this CHAMP plan card. Or maybe they're on their spouse's plan, or maybe they're on the marketplace, or maybe they don't have any insurance at all, or maybe they're on Medicare. It absolutely doesn't matter what their current situation is. This is not going to change it. This is just a nice addition to it. If they don't have any insurance at all, this is something that's really going to help them. So the employees get a CHAMP plan card, and we teach them how to use it. And the first thing they're going to use it for is unlimited in-person primary care doctor visits and unlimited walk-in clinic visits, like an urgent care. So they just take the card, they walk in, they see the doctor, and there's no cost to them. Now, that's if they don't have any insurance at all. Now, if they do have insurance, and you think, well, they already can go see their doctor whenever they want, or they can go to any urgent care they want as often as they want. Well, they would still want to use the CHAMP plan card, because most health coverage, if you go to see your doctor, there's $20 to $50 copay there. Or if they go to an urgent care, it might be $80 or $100 copay. Well, if they use the CHAMP plan card, there is no copay, there is no deductible, there's no claims reporting. The CHAMP plan is they don't work with another insurance company. It's a standalone product. So the employees would want to use the CHAMP card so they don't have any copay, right? This is really good for the employees, because not only are they going to get more money in their take-home check, so you basically gave them a pay raise, but now they can go see their doctors, and there's no reason for them not to, because there's no copay to fear. They can go every day if they want to. And then we tell them to use this card for everything. So we want them to use it for everything under the Affordable Care Act that's considered preventative care. Now, when Obamacare became a law, they created a very long list of items that are considered preventative care. And, most people think of preventative care as a yearly physical or wellness check or something like that. And that is involved in there. But there's an incredibly long list of things that are considered preventative care. And it's everything from, early women wellness checks, and there's all of the screenings that you can imagine, and all of their immunizations and boosters and vaccines. There's mammograms, there's colonoscopies, and on and on and on. Well, some of that's expensive, right? And now if you have an employee that's not on any insurance, they're not going to go pay $4,000 for a colonoscopy, even though they need one. Well, now they have the CHAMP plan card, and they're going to go see their doctor with no copay, and the doctor's going to tell them that they should go get that done. They're going to go to that place, and they're going to get that colonoscopy so they can know if something is wrong with them. There's no cost to them to do this, right? So they're getting their basic medical benefits. Now, on top of all these in-person doctor visits and all the preventative care, they also get unlimited prescriptions for their whole family with no copay. Now, I know this says $0 to $1 copay, but that is actually $0 copay. Now, what's going to happen there is the employees just take the same CHAMP plan card that they use to go see their doctors, and they take it to their local Walgreens or whatever pharmacy you use. And when anybody in the family needs common medications, you can go pick that up, and there's no copay, there's no cost to it. So if they do have insurance already, maybe they're on blood pressure medication and every 30 days they refill that and there's a $14 copay on their current plan. Well, now they'll use the Champ Plan card and they'll get that refill and there won't be any copay. But if they don't have any insurance at all and they get a sick child that needs antibiotics or something to that effect, there's no reason for them not to go get it because, again, they can just go to their local pharmacy and pick it up and there's not going to be any cost to them. So it's a really big deal. You're getting your employees a take-home pay increase. You're getting them unlimited doctor visits, urgent care visits, all of the preventative care there is, and unlimited prescriptions for their whole family. And then on top of all that, they get access to this really nice, robust virtual care platform. So, most people think of virtual care as, just teledoc or telemedicine where you get on and talk to a doctor. And it's very convenient, right? Most people do want to use teledoc because it's so convenient that you can talk to a doctor from your own home rather than have to go into an office and visit that person. But it's a lot more than just doctor visits here with this virtual care platform. There's nutrition counselors and there's nurse coaching. Has a very robust personal and mental health care platform where anybody in the family can get on and talk to a licensed therapist. I just realized I might not be sharing my screen. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're okay, Jeff.
Here we go. So I was showing everybody, what the benefits actually are here. So the employees are going to get all of these doctor visits, urgent care visits, all of the preventative care under the Affordable Care Act, and all of the prescriptions with no copays. Now, the virtual care that I was talking about, the personal mental health care, it's really nice because most healthcare, whether you have any or not, there's a big gap as far as personal and mental health care go, where it's not really covered as well as it should be. And this fills that gap tremendously because people literally can get on. Anybody in the family can use this unlimited, and they can talk to a licensed therapist that very same day. So they don't have to schedule out for 2 weeks when there's an opening in a therapist schedule. They don't have to go into a strange office building when they really don't feel like facing the world. And they can get this as often as they need from the comfort of their own home. So all of this virtual care, the unlimited prescriptions for the whole family, all of the preventative care, and all of the in-person doctor visits and urgent care visits are completely covered by being on this plan. And while being on this plan, the employees actually get more money in their take-home check. So it's a fabulous thing to do to give to employees, right? They like all of that. Now, for the employer is going to gain quite a bit from this as well in a couple of different ways. Obviously, with the way that I'm delivering this, you're going to have healthier, happier employees who appreciate getting those perks and that pay raise that didn't come out of the company's pocket, but also the employer gains almost $600 per year per employee. So, by the way, I should have shown this page. I was showing all the different types of employers when I mentioned cities and
Moving on the
well-known
14th.
franchise groups and all that. But what happens with the Champ Plan is there's
We're
two
fucking
engines
a million
that are
degrees.
operating at once here. There's a normal pre-tax benefit under
think the
Section
end-
125 of the
right.
tax code, and that's what pays for all of the doctor
They're
visits and
saying that it's
prescriptions. So
gonna feel
Section
like
125 of the
120
tax
over
code, by
the-
the way, that's where 401k plans and health savings accounts and most all pre-tax medical benefits come from. And that's true of the Champ Plan. This first engine comes
What?
from Section 125 of the tax code, and it's a pre-tax medical benefit that's paying for all those doctor visits. But the second part
you
of
haven't
it
gotten our
is
heat
what we
yet.
call
You're
a
starting to
proactive
get our
approach to
heat,
healthcare, and
because
it's done
right
on a
now,
post-tax basis.
this is
But
for the
what we
past 3
do
days.
is we
We've been
give
at,
the employees
99,
direct
but the
access to
feel-like
the Mayo
temperature has
Clinic.
gone up to like 112.
And I'll show you what that is just
Yeah.
real briefly. But the Mayo Clinic is
120.
going to send these
fucking
employees
nuts.
prescribed medical information every month that
That's
helps them
fucking
be more
nuts.
healthy.
But it's been hot. Like my
And
house, I think
in doing so,
I started
it creates a
cooling it
claim
down
benefit that's paid to the employees.
on
So the employees have a
Sunday.
little
The
pre-tax
AC
premium
has
that
been
comes out,
running
but they have
nonstop
almost an equal
at
post-tax claim benefit
I'm
that's
keeping
paid
the
in
house
on a
at
non-taxable
70.
basis. And then they save
And it's
money in
still,
taxes, so
like,
their pay
crazy.
increases. Now, because of that, the employer also has a gain of
We have a lot of trees
$573.60
and stuff, so
per
maybe
employee
it won't
per
be
year
as bad at our
because
house.
you pay less FICA taxes because the employees show less
Hope so.
taxable income, which means you don't have to
Right.
match it with a
But
combined
it's only a couple
FICA
days, right?
tax. And since you don't have
So
to
it's like-
pay that FICA
like
tax on
4
the
days,
full
I
amount
think,
of their income
of
any
100
longer,
degree weather.
you actually
Yeah.
gain $573.60
At least
as an
till Sunday.
employer
That's
per
all
year.
I can see. I
Now,
don't
the
know.
employees
Maybe you'll
themselves,
hold on after
their
that.
take-home pay increase varies wildly. It can
And
be
hopefully the
almost
humidity
$500,
doesn't-
or it could
Do
be
you
as
guys
little
get-
as
do you guys get
$2, right?
humidity?
It's all over the
Throughout
board
the
because it's done through
Yeah.
tax savings, and
Yeah,
of course,
makes sense.
everybody has something different going on with their taxes, and people make different amounts of money. They have different amounts of dependents. Different states have different tax laws and so forth. But on a national average, it's about $100 to $125 more per month of take-home pay for an average employee in America. So that's around $1,200 to $1,500 per year of additional take-home pay. So it is actually really quite nice. Now, let's get down to where I need to be here. So this Mayo Clinic, the second part of this program, the employees are going to get direct access to the Mayo Clinic. And as I mentioned, the Mayo Clinic is going to help them. So what the Mayo Clinic wants to do is they want to find how they can best improve each employee's health individually and differently, right? Because everybody has different needs. So how they know how to help the employees is by giving them an initial health assessment to find out what their needs are. And that's the same thing that happens whenever we go to a new doctor for the first time. Usually they give you a questionnaire and they're going to ask you a litany of questions about your health. They want to know if you get depressed, if you have any history of heart disease in your family, if you get swelling in your joints, if you're allergic to any medications, and that sort of thing. Well, the Mayo Clinic's going to ask those same questions through this app that all the employees get access to. Now, this app has a lot of tools on it, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a moment. But the employees take this initial health assessment. So they're, as soon as they opt into this, they get access to this app, and you can see this furthest left screen here. It says Start Health Assessment. That's really what they'll see. Now, when they click on that, they're going to start to answer these questions, and you'll see what it looks like in this next page, right? They use it this way instead of using a clipboard with a piece of paper on it at a doctor's office. But once they answer these questions, an actual doctor from the Mayo Clinic is going to look at everybody's answers and determine how they can best help that employee individually. And when they find that out, then they help them by sending them prescribed medical information every single month through this app that's going to help that employee be more healthy. So it might address their anxiety or depression, or it might address their high blood pressure or their cholesterol or their weight gain. Whatever it is that that employee needs help with, the Mayo Clinic is going to send them information to help them. Now, that information usually comes in like a 90-second video that the Mayo Clinic's created or a brief article that they've written. But again, it's different for every employee and it's really going to help them. But this app itself, there's so many tools to it for the employees. You know, they can track their health on it. They can attach their Fitbits and their Apple Watches and create playlists, and they can research any medications that they're on or procedures that they're thinking about. And there's locators to find the nearest pharmacy or nearest urgent care, and on and on and on. Just really a lot of great tools. And they can actually even do a face scan, and it can show them their vitals, right? They can see their breathing rate, their heart rate, their blood pressure, without having to even put a cuff on. It's amazing technology. But the employees get direct access to all of this along with the Mayo Clinic. And that's in addition to all of these benefits that they're getting, right? The doctor care, the urgent cares, and all of that sort of thing. And finally, I forgot one thing I always tell people about. This is inclusive for the whole family, is this virtual care portion, even the pets. I forgot to mention that. So pets, people with pets can actually get on and talk to a veterinarian before they would ever have to kennel that poor pet, drive them to a facility and pay all those fees. People can use it for that as well. So lots of great benefits here. And it's just something that helps. Now, if a group is offering medical benefits currently, then, excuse me. There we go. So if an employee, if you are already offering medical benefits, this is actually going to mitigate that year-over-year increase in premiums that you have, because the CHAMP plan pays for so much of the utilization on these plans that the plans go down. And then there's guaranteed issue plans that are involved with it. If you're on the CHAMP plan, you can get guaranteed issue plans for as high as $300 is the most, if you want to give full medical benefits to your employees and things like that. But it all stems through the CHAMP plan and how it offloads all of the utilization on these plans. So it's really a great gift to give your employees, but it's a great gift to give yourself as well.
Absolutely, and I want to thank Brad for connecting us because he's the one that originally put us together. So, thank you so much for that, Brad. Jeff, how do folks reach you if they'd like to get signed up for the champ
Yeah.
plan?
Great question. So if they want to get a hold of me, I would like to do a one-on-one with you and explain in detail, more detail than I just gave this overview to, really explain the program, where the funding comes from, how it really works, how it's going to affect you actually as a business owner, how it's going to affect each and every one of your employees. And to do that, you just have to reach out to Matt. Matt will connect us, and I will do a one-on-one presentation with you and really get into the nuts and bolts of this program and show you just how much it'll mean to you financially.
Just trying to join
Perfect.
on my phone.
Yeah,
but
please, definitely please reach out if you have any questions or want to connect with Jeff. They've got such a great thing going on here, and it'll help all of your businesses. So, Jeff, thank you for your time tonight. Really appreciate you. Brad, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, Matt.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you both. Rochelle, I've got a very special guest with us, Rochelle Times. She is an amazing accountant out of Albuquerque. But Rochelle, why don't you give us a little bit about your background and what you're offering our members here at CANM?
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because Jeffrey, when you were presenting, I didn't see the presentation. It didn't show up for some weird reason. May I share my screen real quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
What I have to say is only going to take a few minutes. Can you guys see that? Yes, I hope.
Yes, there it is.
That's my website, and that's my business. I'm an accountant. I'm a certified management accountant. I'm also a certified fraud examiner. So I kind of like to dig real deep into the numbers. My background, I have 3 years of public accounting audit experience working for one of the largest CPA firms in the country. I've also spent quite a bit of time working in tax for a large utility company and quite a bit of corporate accounting experience. I'm looking to transition into cannabis accounting because I find it to be very fascinating. So I'm introducing myself as hopefully someone who could provide accounting services, preferably as a fractional CFO for a company. I'm trying to think what else. I'm getting a little bit nervous, but
You're good.
I'm actually licensed in New Mexico to actually provide accounting services. And like I said, I'm new to the cannabis space, and I'm here to be of service and to help businesses to get in compliance. Is my understanding from talking to quite a few owners, et cetera, that a big issue is people, for one, having timely filings, making sure they're in compliance with all of the rules and regulations, be it unemployment, workers' comp, gross receipts tax, I'm finding is a huge one. So I'm really here to offer my expertise. I have, like I said, a lot of public accounting and corporate accounting experience that I believe positions me to be a very strong advocate for cannabis businesses within the state of New Mexico, or really anywhere in the country for that matter. But my LLC is registered here in New Mexico. So I can be reached at, there goes my phone number. My website is nnpaccounting.com, and my email is rochelle@nnpaccounting.com. So pass on my information. There's my QR code. Please scan it. It's a virtual business card that you could share with anyone within your network. I would greatly appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rochelle. Really, really appreciate you. One of the more difficult challenges that I think we face as cannabis business owners is accounting. It's difficult to find a good accountant under normal circumstances, but with cannabis businesses, it seems to be even more difficult. So we're thankful to have Rochelle as a member and as an accountant that can help our members. So thank you, Rochelle. We'll touch base again later this week and get you scheduled for the farm tour here down in Socorro.
Yes, looking forward to that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So we are going to jump into the meat of our program here. On my other screen now, welcome, Melissa and Dr. Anna Schwabe. Thank you for joining tonight. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, to get started, let's have you introduce yourselves. Melissa, you want to go first?
Sure. Melissa Galbadores, and I am one of the board of directors for AGF, Agricultural Genomics Foundation. It is a mouthful. Agriculturalgenomics.org is the website. And I have a background my background includes a lot of tech, a lot of supply chain, and then, of course, cannabis for at least the past 10 years.
Awesome. Dr. Anna?
Yeah, I'm having issues. I can't get into the call on my computer, and I'm not sure if the everything's working on my phone.
You're good. We can hear you. We can hear you and see you, so you're good.
Okay.
Just give a quick introduction of who you are and kind of how you got into working on AGF.
Gotcha. Okay, so Anna Schwabe. I have a PhD in cannabis genetics from the University of Northern Colorado. My background is in population genetics, so looking at relationships within and among closely related groups and species and things like that. And so I've been in cannabis. I started my degree in 2015, graduated in 2019. Moved from Colorado in 2021 out to New Jersey, and I'm just about to hit the road again to move to Texas. So, and I wear a lot of hats. I not only sit as a board member for the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, I also I teach classes at CU Boulder with Dr. Daniela Vergara, who's also the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, but she's not here right now. And then we teach basic and advanced cannabis science courses. I also work for a company called My Flora DNA. I'm just kind of science advisor / marketing / kind of everything. I also am working with a company called Zenetics, which does tissue culture, and that's why I'm moving out to Texas. And then finally, I have just launched my own company called TrueCut, and we do genetic verification using DNA fingerprinting. And we built it kind of for breeders and cultivators. It's a much more affordable route than either the Plant Variety Protection Office, which is not really a route that, type 2 and 3 cannabis or type 1 and 2 cannabis can take. And it's much more affordable and faster route to protecting your IP than a plant patent. And so that's called TrueCut. TrueCut.co is that company if you're interested in looking into that. But that's who I am and what I do.
Awesome, and I'll put all the links down in the discussion area, down in the comments, so that way everybody has access to those. For folks who might not know AGF, which is probably a lot of people in New Mexico, give us a quick little rundown. What's the organization's mission, and kind of what's the gap you're trying to fill? Part of the reason I wanted to have y'all on here is we don't talk a lot about science in cannabis. We say science in cannabis, and we say it needs to be done, but you're actually doing it. So give us a little bit of background about AGF, kind of how it came together, what your mission is, and the gaps you're trying to fill.
Yeah, so I can take that one. So Dr. Daniela Vergara, who again is not here, she's the one who actually started AGF back in, I want to say 2015. I'm not sure if I got that right. But basically, she was doing research at CU Boulder and was not allowed to take drug money. She needed to fund her research, but there was no opportunities for her to apply for grants or anything like that. And so with advice from her mentor, she started a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit, so that she could take donations, and she called it the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, so that it wasn't specifically for cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
It's science and genomics for all kinds of crops, but really it is, that's pretty much all we do is cannabis and hemp. Cannabis and hemp are the same thing, but anyway, so that's why she started it. And then so she got some research done and was able to pay some interns and things like that. And then in 2019, we started she called me up and she was like, hey, I want to, make a class. Would you be interested in helping? And I was like, sure. So we designed Modern Cannabis Science, which we designed to be an online class. It was first offered in the summer of, or the fall of 2020. So if we all remember back to that year, the
That
online the online design, the way that we intended it to be, actually worked out perfectly, because we never intended to be in a classroom. And so we've been teaching online now since 2020. We morphed the one course into 2 courses, so it was a lot. It was a lot of information. And by 2024, a lot had changed, as everybody knows. Regulations and policies and just science and everything to do with cannabis changes almost on a daily basis. And so we decided to split it up into basic cannabis science and then a more advanced cannabis science course, so that we could cover, breeding and cultivation systems and cultivation management, extractions and things like that, like a lot more deeply for the people who wanted to do like a more intense course. So the basic just kind of gives you the nuts and bolts of cannabis, the plant, the breeding system, some of the science. What else do we cover? Phenotype, chemotype, that kind of thing. The basic cannabinoids, terpenes, all of the really basic stuff you need to know about cannabis. And then once it's not necessarily a prerequisite. We do recommend that you take that first, but we do have then we have the big fat meat and potatoes, nitty gritty, like getting down deep into it in the advanced course. And so somebody who's already in the cannabis industry and knows all the basics could jump straight into that one. And we offer those for everybody, not just through CU Boulder. We actually have the same courses available on the AGF website, and we put them up there. You can take the whole course, and you get a certification at the end of it. But you can also, if you're only interested in, let's say you're only interested in cultivation and you really don't want to learn about the endocannabinoid system and blah, 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 you can just take chunks of it and still get a certificate at the end of that. And it costs a lot less than taking the whole Big Daddy courses.
And it's pretty awesome too. I've had a chance to really look at the courses and kind of get to know what you're offering, and it's very unique. I mean, we've definitely seen some stuff pop up over the last few years, but I think what you're offering is a pretty unique perspective from the course side of things, and people should definitely get in there and take those courses. I think. Do you see that as a way that you're kind of bridging the gap between farmers and science and academia and research? Is that kind of how you're looking at this?
Yeah, I think so, because a lot of the cannabis courses available online, and even at universities, are very much either medicine based for people going into the medical field, or business. So, for dispensary owners, or, taxes and all of the legal stuff. And there really isn't a whole lot beyond, like cultivation. There's classes on cultivation, but like we get down and deep into, the different cultivation, cultivation management, crop steering, and cultivation just covers one section of our course. We cover genetics and genomics, and we cover, like I said, extractions, the chemistry, like, the human body and how all these chemicals interact with the body and what they do. And then we have to talk about the endocannabinoid system, which is, I mean, I could give you a whole lesson right now, but I'd rather have people.
It's a whole course.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of people, when they think cannabis industry, they think cannabis industry, it's about growing and selling cannabis. Mm-hmm. But there's so much more to it. Or you could be a dispensary owner, right? Growing and selling cannabis, and there's just so much more to it, right, Melissa?
There's more to it because it's so important, because we have to get to the facts of the plant in order to grow the industry, right? So we have a new and emerging group of cannabis users, the women who are looking for health and wellness, and we can't get to that health and wellness unless we have the science that provide the consistency and all of the structure that we need to know in order to de-risk the industry and to grow it. So it comes full circle eventually.
Well, and I'm glad you actually mentioned that, Melissa. I know you're in the process of editing a book that you wrote. It's kind of on topic. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about, give us a little preview about your book and what it's about?
So the book is The Forgotten Bond, The History of Cannabis and Women's Health. And it started many, many, many moons ago, a few years back. And in my very unique role, I will say, within the cannabis space, I had access to every single vertical, every single piece of the industry. And I learned a lot. And I kept uncovering a lot of different things and discovering things. And somebody had said, you should write a book. There's a lot of information that would be useful here. And I kept saying, sure. Finally got around to it. And it's interesting because it doesn't tell you, it's not meant to say this is what you need to use or this is how you should take it. It's literally the history of the plant, going back to the science of it. A lot of citations in there from Dr. Anna, Dr. Daniela, Dr. Russo, a lot of the cannabis scientists that we really rely upon to understand this plant. It's that science, and then it goes into historical applications, what we've learned historically, how cannabis was used primarily within the female body, and then modern day applications of it, and tying that science together to be able to give people this understanding of this plant has been around for millions of years. Right? And then you have the applications, how it was used historically, and then how it was taken away for one reason or another. I'll leave my opinion for those that want to read the book. And it gets to it's to the point where I think for anybody that is in the cannabis industry, especially as women that have used it and that understand, and just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? And that we know certain things. The goal is to be able to validate a lot of what we feel and things that we probably already know. But then for other women and allies of women and women's health specifically, to be able to read this book and look at it and say, oh, interesting. Okay. And then decide for themselves whether or not they are interested in exploring cannabis use for health and wellness. And we can't do that without the science. It all really goes back to AGF and the science and the genetics and the genomics and Dr. Daniela and Dr. Anna and what they do. And the goal of getting to what our mission for AGF. So it all comes
it all ties back to science, right? I mean, science really shouldn't be gatekept or locked away in journals behind paywalls and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, after all, cultivators are scientists in a way. We've got to deal with either salts and mixing those up and dealing with the plant biology or using organic growing methods like we do, and there's a lot of science behind that. There's science in literally everything we do within the cannabis industry, and it shouldn't be kept a secret.
No. I hear people say all the time in the industry, oh, but I'm not a scientist.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, yes, you are. Like,
Absolutely.
You make observations, you make, you guess something is happening, you test it out, you repeat it to make sure it wasn't a fluke. You may or may not write it down. Some people are good at keeping everything up in their steel traps. Other people do take meticulous notes and have really, like copious amounts of notes and notebooks. And I'm like, that's what science is. You are a scientist. Whether you know it or not, or whether you're classically trained, it doesn't matter. That is the scientific method, right? And so we want people to know that. We want people to understand, what science is, what the process is, collecting data, and what we can use that data for. Analyzing data may not be everybody's strong suit, so we want to teach the next, round of scientists, either the young people or the people already in the industry, how they can use their scientific minds better and their scientific methods better. So how to analyze the data, and if we do start collecting genomic information and genomic data from some of the farmers, we want to teach them how to analyze. Like, it's not magic. all it is training, right? You
Yeah.
get trained. You get trained to cook. You read a recipe. Somebody helps you. Like it's not magic. You just need somebody to show you how to do it. What the method is, and then how to interpret the analysis. Doesn't take some big fancy IQ or brain. Like I'm a perfect example of that. It's just training. You get taught how to do something, and then you can do it. So we would love for farmers to be able to understand better what genetics and genomics is, and how they can take their own data, and then how they can utilize that data not only in their own facility or their own garden, but also how they can share data and get a bigger picture of what's going on, especially for people in different regions. Like, how come what are you getting out of your grow, and what am I getting out of my grow, and how do they differ, and why do they differ? Is it purely because of environmental reasons? And if you're working with the same genetic, of course it is, right? So growing something in New Mexico versus North California versus New Jersey, even if you have clones of those things, they're going to turn out incredibly different. And it doesn't matter, especially if you're growing outside, but even indoor grows, everybody has their own way of growing, and they have their, different nutrients and their different watering regimes, and their, is it a hoop house? Is it a glass house? Is it a totally completely indoors? Is it hydroponic? Is it aquaponic? Is it aeroponic? Like, there's all of these different systems, and every single variable. Cannabis is incredibly plastic. And what I mean by plastic is that you change something in the environment, it will respond in ways very quickly, and it'll do something to adapt to that environment in the situation that it's in. And so for cannabis, the environment does play a very large role in the end product. So if you have two facilities, under the same license, but the two facilities are slightly different, you're going to get different products, even if they're clones, right? So we want, and we hear people talking about that all the time. And then, from run to run, if you clone something, and then you clone it again, and then you clone it again, people say genetic drift, like it starts, genetic drift. It's not genetic drift, by the way. Don't use that word. Genetic drift is an evolutionary term, and it happens over generations of populations. It's a population level type thing. So it definitely doesn't apply to clones. But what does happen is the phenotype drifts. It may drift towards less terpenes, or it might drift towards, I don't know, maybe it's not producing as big a yields. There's all kinds of ways that it can drift and become something that you're not expecting, or maybe something that you don't even want. And there's ways you can reverse it with tissue culture and things like that. But that does happen, right? And so even from grow to grow, you can have different products, even if you're working with the same exact mother, which is annoying, I guess.
And I've been in literally hundreds of grows now, either working with clients or our members here at CANM. And I always say, if you've seen one grow, you've seen one grow. The difference is, even if it's the same grower setting up a different facility, it's different. Everything is.
I like it. I like that.
So tell me, are you currently collecting data through the genomics project? Is that something you're working on now? Is it something planned more for the future? What's that looking like right now?
So we have a farmers collective sort of data collection experiment type of thing going on. We started it last year, but we for reasons we didn't really get anybody to participate, and we didn't really gather any data. But we are really looking for farmers, it's all over the place, to participate, collect data. The difficulty is that farmers are busy, right?
Yeah.
They don't have, but some of you are already collecting data, and we want to try and, maximize the potential to gather good data, useful data, while not increasing the burden by asking farmers to do a ridiculous amount of data collection that may or may not be useful. So we're kind of looking to partner with farmers who are interested in doing this sort of work, where we can look at things like how much of the environmental differences are impacting the phenotypes and chemotypes. How do different strains perform in different regions? Like, I would love to see seed zones for cannabis, especially for hemp, because we all know that something that is developed in Oregon is not going to grow well in Florida. And for hemp farmers, that can be a devastating loss if you grow something that's supposed to be under 0.3 and then it goes hot, because you have to destroy the whole crop, right?
Yep.
So there's all these kinds of things that we can partner with farmers on, and even if somebody has an idea, we would love to hear from the farmers, like, what would be useful to you, what would be helpful to you, so that we can help design experiments and recruit farmers who are interested in participating, so that we can kind of do a collective, what do I want to call it? Like a social experiment. No, it's not a social experiment. That's something completely different. Like
a plant experiment.
I mean? Citizen science, it really is what kind of we need to do. So, Melissa, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you've hit on everything. Our goal is to really be able to leverage our nonprofit status to be able to collect the data and feed it back to the industry, right? I think that from a business perspective, taking us outside of the grow and the science for one split second, it's really important that we start to share information, even if it's anonymized information, is really critical and helpful. Again, we need to get to de-risking the industry if this industry is going to mature and last through the rescheduling, the the future descheduling. Let me speak it out to the universe, right? And in order to be able to de-risk that, and then to get us to consistency, again focused on health and wellness, which is the trend and where we're going and where this industry ultimately will land us. That's the plant is a magical thing, and it does a lot of amazing things. And so I think that being able to leverage AGF and Dr. Cannabis and Dr. Bella, from a very scientific perspective, like she says, all farmers, you're all scientists. We all are to a degree. Just some of us nerd out over it a little bit more than others. And
exactly.
And so, when you start to realize and recognize, and you get a minute to like take a breath, right, from all it is that you're doing, and can put together or pull together what you already have, and share it and allow us to anonymize it and put it alongside other data to then feed back to the industry. I think it's really critical, and we're in a very unique position to be able to offer that. So that's what I will add.
Well, I love it. I love the project, and you can count on us to help try and get you a couple of very scientific farmers involved in the next season to help out with this. Or I don't know, maybe there's some folks that could help you out this season, but either way, you can count on us to help pull some people together. I think the science behind cannabis the importance is just going to continue to grow, especially with rescheduling and the feds finally dipping their toes into the cannabis waters in a more legal way. So having AGF as an organization to spearhead some of that science, I think is incredibly important. It's only going to get more important as the feds' role in cannabis grows as well. I think I could be wrong, but everything that they say they do is backed by science. So let's make them put their money where their mouth is in that regard, I think. Yeah, absolutely. The more the better too.
We'll get there. the faster we will get there. The more information that we have, the more we can feed back to the industry, the faster we will be able to de-risk, ensure our products are consistent, and earn public's trust long term, not short term. And
Yeah.
so the more will move the needle faster.
Public, regulators, ancillary services, everybody. The data, as we all know, is incredibly important anyway, and it's really the new commodity of this era, really. And the more we can collect on cannabis and share out to the community is really what we need as an industry. I think data will help us move beyond certain things too, like markets similar to New Mexico, where we worry a lot about what do we worry a lot about? Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. We worry a lot about potency of cannabis. We all know that THC percentages aren't necessarily what we should be paying attention to. Terpenes affect our body in a very different way. Cannabinoids do. So how can the data help kind of start knocking down some of these, not just misconceptions like, oh, a 35% is going to get me really high, like maybe drinking a high percentage beer, and some of the other stigmas that exist around cannabis?
First of all, 35%.
Say it.
All right.
Say it.
It's very unlikely that you have
Yeah.
a plant that is producing 35% THC, total THC in the flowers.
Right.
It's just not biologically realistic. And we all know that the labs are inflating the numbers. And blah, blah, blah. People say, well, there's room for lab error. If that was what was going on, we would not only see inflation, but we would also see, numbers that are lower than what's in the package. We don't see that every single time. It is higher than the number in the package. We know that labs are inflating numbers, and it's the same with terpenes. So if you're getting 7% terps on your flower, no, you're not. That's the lab doing that for you. So that's the hill I will die on. Is big misinformation in cannabis is the THC numbers. Not only that, like there's more and more information coming out that says THC percent, higher THC percent does not get you higher. It doesn't elevate the experience. It doesn't equate to quality. Like the way that I see THC is the way that I see flour in a cake. Like it's there. It's necessary. Does more flour mean better cake? No. Like, in fact, it will probably start to get really gross, right?
Gross, yeah.
Whereas, more and more THC, like a lot of people have noticed that the THC has increased, and the flour, it creates anxiety. They feel uncomfortable. Where did that giggly fun feeling go? Well, we've been concentrating on THC. And it's this vicious cycle, right? Concentrating on THC, it's pretty much the only metric we give the consumer to look at or to evaluate on a product. So then we set our prices in relation to the THC content. So higher THC equals higher price, which tells the consumer it's higher quality. The consumer tries it and they say, I don't like this. Well, no, you don't, because it's just THC. It's lost all of the subtle nuances that come with all those other minor cannabinoids and minor constituents, the esters, the flavonoids, the other things, the thiols that are in the plant that make cannabis so fun and interesting and complex and layered. You focus on one thing, now you've got a cake that's just flour and water and gross. Where's all of the, so if you want high THC, and there are some folks who really want that high THC, I say then you are not looking for flour. You're looking for concentrates. So
Agreed.
Sure, you can smoke flour, but add something to it to bump that THC up. And I think we need to stop breeding and selecting for a THC. I think it's really ruining not only the product, the quality, but it's also turning people away who might actually enjoy cannabis, but they don't have any access to anything else. Like, I know that my sweet spot is like 7% to maybe 11% THC. Would I be able to find that in a dispensary? Absolutely not. So what do I have to? I mean, I do have a cultivator who grows type 2, but they're really hard to find. Not the average Joe is not going to find those in a store. If you don't know, type 2 is a balanced THC CBD. The other thing you can do is take half of a CBD flower and half of a THC flower and mix them together, and make your own sort of ratios.
Have a cocktail.
Have a cocktail, have a salad. So the THC thing, I would really like to see that go away. I think that just like ingredients in a food product, they need to be listed. You need to know what's in there.
Yeah.
Does it need to be front and center and like have all of this like emphasis put on it? No, I think that needs to go away. I think all of the ingredients are just as important as each other, but you should be able to go look through the ingredients and see some of the minor terpenes, some of the minor cannabinoids, some flavonoid styles, things like that. But we just don't test for those, right? And so, we've got the indica sativa buckets, which I think are fine for the noobs, not necessarily attaching effects to those two words, but just know that indicas are different than sativas, and whatever they do to you is whatever they do to you. I think we've switched out indica sativa for terpenes, but it's the same freaking terpenes in all of the flower. Like there's like 6 of them, and they're all in different ratios, but like same thing. That's like eggs and butter and sugar in a cake. Like, yes, they're there. Great. Cool. That's not what I needed to know about this cake. What's the other stuff in the cake that and the difference between like an excellent cake and like a supermarket cake, right? Those are subtle ingredients that you wouldn't even think. And if you were at a Michelin star restaurant and you had an incredible piece of cake, you might ask like, what's in this? How did you make this? And there might be an ingredient that you wouldn't even have looked for or thought of, like applesauce or chili powder or Coca-Cola or nutmeg or something that is just off, bacon grease, right? Something that is just off the wall that you didn't even think would be in there, but it made this cake incredible. I think there's some of those compounds in there that we're not even looking at. We haven't even thought of. I think those are like the magic ingredients that we haven't. This is why we do science, right? There's so many questions and answers to things that we don't know.
Well, the balance of everything within the plant is so important, right? It reminds me of a strawberry. Strawberries growing up tasted like strawberries. Today they taste like water. And to me that is very similar. That's how I think of it. It's kind of like you just focus on THC, you're going to end up with something watered down, and you're taking the magic out of the plant. You're literally taking the magic out of the plant. So make sure that we're not taking the magic out, and make sure that we understand the ratios and the balance. And we have, again, I'm going to go back to, we have to get to creating the consistency to gain the trust, so that folks who want to use cannabis will do the easy ones, to get a good night's rest, to potentially make their hot flashes go away, to have an afternoon pick-me-up, right? There's so many basic things that we can figure out based off of what's on the store shelf. But to Anna's point, the noobs, I use that term very loosely based off of Anna, we don't know any better. I'll put myself in that category. We don't know any better. People don't know what they don't know. And so this goes back to understanding the science and making sure that we're not.
And something else that I'll add is that who's making the decisions for this industry? It's the CFOs that are like, we need high yields, we need high THC.
Yep.
Consumer is not driving this market. Like, the consumer is only given what's put in front of them at any given dispensary, which is an incredibly small section of the diversity that is cannabis. and they don't know any better because they haven't been offered they've been given is like runts and cookies and cake and I don't even know what's on the shelf at the moment, but
There's a lot of junk on the shelf, honestly.
Gelato, then like it's all been cookies and cake the last at least what 4 or 5 years. But and the consumers most consumers in this industry are still new, and they have no idea the diversity and aromas and tastes and effects that cannabis has because they've only got this very small selection of things. Right. It's like going into a candy store and all they have is saltwater taffy. Saltwater taffy is great, but like there's so much more to candy than just saltwater taffy, right? You can have a good saltwater taffy, but like if you I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it,
Well,
but
I love this conversation because we as cultivators and wholesalers, we're constantly worried about our numbers, and it makes it difficult to sell anything that tests below 22% in a lot of cases. So, as an industry, what are a couple of things that you think we can do to kind of shift that conversation, especially from a scice perspective?
take the THC off the label.
See, that's my number one thing. I want to do that.
But
Or add more things to the label.
add
do
more
that
things
too.
to the label. I think I know people hate when cannabis is compared to alcohol, but I do think that people will pay more money for a higher quality product. What they don't know at the moment is that THC does not equate to quality. Craft growers in smaller batches, even lower yields, they could make more money if the consumer had the opportunity to assess what a quality product is to them. And quality is in the eye of the beholder. Like, not everybody likes the same thing, right? But if we look at, the craft beer industry and the beer industry or the wine industry, there are 4 packs of beer out there that sell for like $30-$35 and people buy them, right? And it's not the highest alcohol necessarily. It's the process and the care that went into that product. It's the complexity of the product. It's the brewer. It's the brewery. Potentially, it's how they grew the hops, which hops they used, all kinds of things. So same thing with wine. It's the different grapes, where they were grown, who the winemaker is. I mean, and they don't. We don't talk about wine in terms of alcohol percent.
Right.
We talk about it, and not even in terms of like what is in this, what's the sugar content, what's this, what's that. It's like it has notes of chocolate and raspberries, and it's full-bodied, and like I think we should go in that direction with cannabis, where we describe the experience. Again, it's sort of subjective, but like, the Gangier program, right? You get to describe the feel and the flavors and the aromas and the sensations, instead of saying this has 35% THC, 7% terpenes it's limonene heavy. It's like, what consumer knows what limonene is? Like,
Yeah.
and you have to have a whole chemistry lesson before you can even walk into a dispensary.
And to your point, having those descriptive terms allows the person to understand and make the decision based off of how they know they feel when they consume those things. Do you feel like you want a full-bodied red, or do you feel like you want a white wine? It's the same with cannabis, right? And so being able to change those the descriptions, so that, because everybody reacts differently to whatever cannabis they're consuming, in whatever form they're consuming it in. And so when you start to understand and learn your own body, and you've experimented enough with different products at different levels and thresholds and what have you, then you can start to make those decisions on what you want. But to your point, like, a THC percentage isn't going to help me at all, but if you start to describe to me, what the terps are or, what some of the cannabinoids are to help guide where I want to feel and or be, then yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I'll know what I'm looking for on the shelf because I can't smell it.
Nope.
And that is everything, being able to smell the plant, your body reacts to it. And so
Absolutely.
being just based off of your body's reaction in of itself is huge. And you take that away and what are you left with?
Yeah, exactly.
Smart.
Yeah.
We're pretty lucky here because we've still got deli style available in New Mexico. So, you can take that jar and the bud tender can hold it and you can take a big old sniff. The nose knows. That's how you should be shopping for cannabis. Something that resonates with your olfactory senses is going to be good and interact well with your body generally. That's something I tell all the noobs.
I mean, that's what we do with everything, right?
Yeah.
Food.
You smell it first.
You smell it before you ingest it. And very rarely is there going to be something that you smell that you don't like the smell of that you're going to enjoy the taste of. I can give you
True.
one example, which is Vegemite. I love Vegemite because I'm Australian.
Oh, wow.
It smells like it doesn't smell good. It smells like a jar of vitamins though. And it's got a lot of vitamin B12 in it, which is probably why it stinks. But yeah, if you smell it, a lot of people are like, I'm not going to eat that. That smells disgusting. There's, some other examples of, other cultures that have, food that doesn't necessarily smell good to Westerners, to Americans, but are incredibly, revered in their culture. So like, and it can all be a matter of taste or maturity, or exposure. Some of the thiols, the volatile sulfur compounds are incredibly powerful. You can smell them in parts per billion, right?
Wow.
And there's no way we're going to measure that next to a terp, right? But those are really, really important. Those are the stinky, skunk and gas and, those kinds of rotten meat, cheese that people
Dirty
really
gym
love.
socks, one of my favorites.
Yeah. And so they're not going to put those on a label because they're found in such tiny quantities, but they're so powerful. And so that's another thing I like to drive home is that abundance does not equal potency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? Expand on that a little bit more because even with some of the other minor cannabinoids and terpenes and everything else, everybody thinks just because there's abundance means it's going to be awesome. So maybe dive into that just a little bit more from the science perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not a human physiologist or anything like that, but like I said, some of these volatile sulfur compounds, you are incredibly sensitive to them. You can smell them in parts per billion. And it is, some of these things that would trigger our body to say, oh, that's not good for you. Like, rotten meat, things like that. But in cannabis, it's not just like one smell. There's layers of smell, and those smells all together, all those different aromas, they mix up and they kind of make something new and different. So Chanel No. 5 is a really good example. So we know that people have like they remake designer perfumes, like they reformulate them and sell them at a cheaper price. Chanel No. 5 is one of the perfumes that they cannot recreate. There's something that's in there in probably a very low quantity, low abundance, that they just can't nail, right? So you'll never get a knockoff Chanel No. 5 that smells like Chanel No. 5 because there's something in there and they can't they can't reverse engineer it because they don't know what they're looking for, first of all. Second of all, it's in incredibly low quantities. Probably one of these, I don't even know. If I knew, then I would make $1 million. But but I also okay, abundance doesn't equal potency. A cup of sugar and a cup of salt. Really different. You put a cup of salt in your cake, you're going to have a bad day, right? Mm-hmm. Salt is more potent than sugar. right?
Yep.
You can take a lot more sugar than you can salt. That's why they don't. I don't know. They don't put salt in Coca-Cola.
One of the reasons I'd say.
So yeah, so if you think of it like that, you know, you would only put a pinch of salt in a cake. You'd put a whole
Yeah.
cup, maybe two, maybe three. I don't know, but you can like sugar is a lot more forgiving,
Yes.
right?
Very much so.
Salt is not. It's very easy to overdo it with salt.
That's a good way to put it.
I like that. Yeah, very much so. And I think this is just going to be an ongoing conversation too, and highly encourage people to start shopping with their noses. Like one of my favorite things to do when I get a new jar of cannabis or a bag or whatever is I pop that thing open right away and I stick my face right in it and smell it. I love all of the different aromas that come off of flower, especially stuff I've never smelled or sampled before. And that's I really think that's how people should be shopping largely, and just ignore that THC percentage. It doesn't do anything for you really, and it's probably not real anyway. We need testing lab reform like crazy. That's a huge piece of this, I think. From a science perspective, is there anything that you see with testing kind of across the nation that should really change and be a little bit more standardized?
The testing thing is like so messed up. Like, I don't even know where to start. So,
I feel like you're rage bait, Anna.
huh?
I said I feel like this is rage bait.
It is a little bit.
The THC thing, right? Okay, so first of all, I just tell everybody to take the number that they give you and times it by 0.7, and you'll get much closer to a realistic number. Just about everybody is inflating about 30%. In terms of the terpenes, they're also inflating those, but also terpenes are volatile compounds. Many of them are volatile compounds. A COA is just a snapshot in time in terms of those compounds, and so the time of testing is not the same as the time of consumption. What has happened to that cannabis between the time it was tested and the time it reached your mouth? Probably a lot of things, right? How is it handled? How is it packaged? Where was it stored? How long has it been? Like that COA is probably not all that close to what you're actually consuming. So in terms of putting a lot of weight in those numbers, I would say stop it. And
Yes.
then we've got all the other things that they're supposed to be testing for, right? Heavy metals, microbes, mold, yeast, all of those things. Those are also getting passed when they shouldn't. What are how is that? How are they doing that? Well, there's multiple ways they can do it. They can just outright fudge the numbers. Remediation is a big one. So you've got a batch of moldy flour. You just zap it with ozone or, UV light or something like that, and bingo, you pass because you don't have any more live microbes. There are some microbes though that produce mycotoxins. So yeah, you got rid of the mold, but there's still potentially mycotoxins in that flour. Not to mention spores and things like that, which are not good for your lungs. So that's also an issue. And who knows what those remediation things do to the actual flour, the trichomes, burning them off. So that's another issue. So really, and I feel bad for the consumer because at the end of the day, this is a consumer industry, right? We do it for the consumer. We grow for the consumer. They're the ones who purchase the product, and they're the people who are left in the dark. They assume that it's a safe product because it's on the shelf. If a product is on the shelf, we all assume that it will be safe. And of course, things do slip through the cracks. We have recalls on, lettuce or ground beef or whatever. But we don't have the same level of safety in cannabis, I feel, that the food industry does. And there's a lot of lying going on.
Mm-hmm. Tons. In fact, California is a great example of that. When they did a bit of a reform on their testing system, immediately the THC potency started to drop across the board, just immediately. So testing really is supposed to be about consumer protection, but what we've seen in the industry, I think, is it's been more of a protection of the businesses, and making sure that we're able to go out and sell on the market these higher percentage strains, if you will, when we all know that's not that's not what we're looking for. So I think one of the things we're really looking at here in New Mexico, and I hope other states are too, is testing reform, changing some of what goes on the labels, changing how testing labs do this. One of our board members, shout out to Barry from Rio Grande Analytics, he is very hardcore on testing reform. He's really doing things right here. He's a very honest lab too, and I'd love to see others follow suit. It's hard being honest in this industry.
It is really hard being honest in this industry, because the labs that produce honest numbers don't stay in business. Because if you've got a lab that's producing an honest, a 17% THC, then the lab down the street's giving you 27, you're going to go back to the lab that's producing 27. If you've got a lab that fails your total mold count, and you've got another one up the street that'll pass it, you're going to go to that one. So it's really, it's rewarding bad behavior is what it's doing.
Well, and one of the things to think about too is when we talk about lab reform, I mean, think about the science of this. Think about going back to the farmers and getting educated on the science and doing this research that we're talking about, full circle back to AGF again, like, can we help support these farmers and these grows in their cultivation, so that they don't necessarily need remediations, or they don't, they already know what they're going to get when they send it to the lab. Like, that's the goal here. We want to be proactive and not reactive. And that's really where we need to be, because that's what's going to create the consistency. That's going to create the trust. And that should in turn take a lot of the angst out of labs and what their their decision, that the tough decisions that they have to make when whether or not they need to pay bills or go out of business. And I think that that's really one of the big issues across the cannabis industry as a whole is that consistency and that level of trust, and being able to de-risk the plant to get to a place where everybody feels comfortable going to work and producing this high quality product that everybody knows and loves and can get behind. Then everybody's working in the same capacity, in the same vein. There's there's not this worry about, what do I need to do? What am I going to have to do today in order to keep the doors open and the lights on? Right. And I think that's a really serious thing that everybody needs to address. And so it really, to me, it always goes back to the science. If you do the 5 why analysis, but why? Let's start with the seed. Let's start with the research.
Love it. And science is so important. It really should be informing most of our discussions around cannabis, especially on the plant and testing and how it impacts the body. How do you see cannabis science really influencing policy? I got to bring it back to policy because I'm a policy guy at heart. It's what I've done a majority of my career, and I love cannabis policy. So how do you see cannabis science influencing and impacting cannabis policy?
Go ahead, Anna.
How do we see what influencing cannabis policy?
How do you see the science of cannabis influencing cannabis policy?
Right. Well, science is supposed to inform policy. However, I feel like it's more like money is influencing policy. I'm not terribly. I've never been political my whole life. I'm not even American. I just became a citizen last year. I've never really paid
congrats.
I don't even know how bills written or works or anything like that. So I've never been an activist or been to Capitol Hill or even really paid attention. But being, a part of the hemp industry for a long time, I needed to learn all about the policy and the role that the DEA and the FDA and the USDA play in all of these different parts of the cannabis plant, because are supposed to, they all do have a hand in regulating some part of cannabis, and they don't play well together. They're all in separate silos almost.
Yeah.
Percent.
I would really like to see cannabis being regulated as either a consumable or an industrial crop. Doesn't matter what the THC is.
Yeah.
If you're going to consume it, it needs to be regulated like somebody is going to put that in their body. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
And so running with that, I think it's a good segue to when, if we take, for example, the hemp, what's going to happen with hemp on, is it November 12th?
12th or something like that. Yeah, it's like one of those numbers.
12, 21, whatever. With what's happening and with the products that are currently on the market right now, under hemp, right? The CBDs and what have you. What happens to those products and what happens to the consumers that depend on those products for their well-being and for their health and wellness? And so I think that going back and understand, and this comes full circle again with understanding the science should help inform knowing that the science ties directly to health and wellness. It ties directly to, supporting certain demographics, certain illnesses, certain this, certain that. And what happens in November is going to be really detrimental to not only the hemp, potentially to the hemp industry, but to all of the CBD users. And that how many people do you know take sleep gummies, right?
Yeah.
That, like, what happens to sleep gummies? And so I think that understanding the science and really tying it back to, no, this is legitimate science that ties directly to the human body. It ties directly to whatever the case may be. Then it becomes medicinal, right? But again, it goes back to how do you create that consistency? How do you create that trust in order to de-risk it? Will the industry get there within the next few months to, make a difference with whatever decisions are made in November? No. Can consumers start to raise their voices and say, hey, if I don't have my CBD sleep gummy or my CBN, my CBGs, I'm not going to get a good night's sleep. I'm not going to be able to function. I'm not going to be able to, have all of the relief that I've had for the past however many years that I've been having this product, and now it's going to be off the shelf. It's going to be restricted, or it's going to be put someplace else. What do I do in the meantime? I mean, it kind of sounds, a lot like when cannabis was reformed, and the majority of women throughout history have used cannabis for ailments, and then all of a sudden it was restricted. And 90 years later, we're just starting to recognize that, oh my goodness, this plant has all these incredible properties that are very much in tune to how our bodies are built and function, and it's going to be taken off the shelf again. Excuse me. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And so I think that from helping to create policy, it's twofold. It is the science, of course, because that's proof, but it's also the consumers, because again, I go back to, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. And being able to hang our hats on the science and say, no, the science is what it is. It says right here that this is the benefit. I think that it has to be two-pronged. It has to come from both sides. We are no longer an industry of fighting the uphill battles. We have enough consumers that know the value of the plant, that rely on the plant to be able to function in today's society in all of its craziness and however you want to define it. And so it's got to be twofold. It's got to come from both directions.
Well, no, I think a lot of the policy discussion right now, especially on the hemp side of things, with the renewed potential ban of hemp-derived products is really based in fear. A lot of what's happened policy-wise, and not just hemp, that's the modern conversation, but dating all the way back to prohibition of cannabis, a lot of it's been based in fear and fear-mongering. So as an industry, we've got a lot on our plates, but it's on us to help continue to knock down some of those stigmas and using the science to do so. It's incredibly important. So we're starting to get to the point where we're going to start asking a couple of questions from the chat. So chat, please get your questions ready. But out of curiosity, what do you feel like a more scientifically mature cannabis industry would look like? What's kind of your dream industry and how it looks once we connect more of the science to cannabis?
I mean, a lot like any other crop, right? Regulated like other crops. You know, a lot of our crops come from tissue culture, clean tissue culture, right? You can't just pop a seed anymore. You have to make sure that, you know, something that you're going to be growing is disease free. You know, there's testing, and you know, we don't wash the cannabis flower like we would produce, but you can wash cannabis. There are people who do it. I've done it, and it's great. But there's a lot of people who don't want to do that because they think all the trichomes are going to fall off or something. I'm like, it's not that like fragile. But you know, doing genetic verification, doing track and trace throughout, and people think that metric is track and trace. It's not. Like, it needs to be a genetic verification throughout the ecosystem, throughout the supply chain, to make sure that at the end of it all, that customer is actually purchasing what it says on the label. Like, you don't buy a bottle of ibuprofen, open it up, and there's Benadryl inside.
Right.
That looks like ibuprofen. If all of the pills are round and white, this is Benadryl, this is aspirin, this is ibuprofen, and this is, I don't know, fentanyl. That's an extreme example, but you know, there needs to be testing along the way to make sure that first of all, what you ordered is what you got. Second of all, what you grew is going out the door is that. What's getting put in the bag is that thing. And then when the customer gets it, it needs to be that thing. And we don't even have that. So, you know, we've got consumers that love Blue Dream, but they can't find that one from back in the day because nobody has it anymore, because either that one that they got back in the day wasn't actually Blue Dream, or there's so many different kinds of Blue Dreams. There's just so much variation, and going back to cannabis is already super plastic. So you're going to have variation even when you have clones from different facilities, but there's no way in hell you're going to get anywhere near consistent products if you're starting out with something that's genetically different, right? Mm-hmm. You got to start with the same genotype to even have a chance in hell of getting somewhat consistent chemotype and phenotype. And so we don't have that. It's a lot of trust me, bro.
Yeah.
You know, like, and there are people who buy cuts, like a clone, for thousands of dollars, right? How do they know that what they paid for is what they got?
Trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro.
It looks like it tastes like a strawberry, right?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Oh, you won't know until it's in flower, and you're going to be like, wait a minute.
What the hell is this? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boy. We've got one question in chat here. Obviously, AGF is a fantastic resource. What are maybe one or two other books or websites that you'd recommend to people to learn more about terpenes or some of the other minor cannabinoids, or anything that we could be curious about as cannabis cultivators?
So there's a couple of books, right? So there's this great book that just came out called Yield Science. It's written by, well, it doesn't have the authors printed on the book anywhere because they didn't want anybody to know who they were. They just wanted to have the book speak for itself. And I came across this book and met the author, and I was like, I picked up the book and I started looking at it, and I was like, holy shit, this book is amazing. Like,
That's awesome.
Do highly recommend it. It also comes with an e-version. So
Okay.
if you buy the book, it's just great. It's got picture. It's like the new Grow Bible. The Grow Bible is incredibly out of date at this point. Still an awesome book, and you should have it on your shelf. But
Sitting right there on my table.
Yield Science, highly recommended, especially for cultivators. Of course, I'm going to recommend the Big Book of Terps and the Formidable Book of Flavonoids. If you want to do chemistry, it's not just chemistry for cannabis. Terpenes are ubiquitous in the plant world. It's what makes all of the plants smell. That smell of fresh cut grass is actually your grass. It's the smell of screaming, right? your grass is screaming because it's getting munched on. It doesn't know the difference between a lawnmower and a flock of locusts, right? What else? Oh, Riley Kirk's book, if you're interested in how your body interacts with cannabis. So Riley's is Reefer Wellness is her book. And then I think one of my favorite all-around science-y kind of books is Jason Wilson's Curious About Cannabis. And I know that he's working on a 4th edition right now. So there's that. Oh, and then who is it? Is it Ed Rosenthal's latest version of his book? I can't read it up there because I'm blind. But he's got a 2nd edition of his book, which has a whole lot more science in it than his previous version, including some genetics and genomic work. So I think that's enough.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Melissa, do you have any books or resources or websites you would send folks to?
No, I go to Dr. Anna.
Well, I was intending that to be a time for you to pitch your book one more time.
Yeah, we'll pitch it as soon as I get it finished.
Perfect. Okay, that sounds awesome. What else? Anything else either of you would like to add in closing tonight? I really appreciate you being here and love it.
I want to plug one of my books. Well, so
Yeah,
Dr. Daniela
please.
and I wrote the first chapter in the Cannabis Genome, which is a collection of works, chapters that most of pretty much all of it is all scientists, and some of it's very heavy and very sciencey, but there's a chapter in there by Kevin Jodrey, who lots of people know. There's a chapter in there from Matthew Gates, who is an IPM specialist. He loves bugs and stuff like that. So that's a pretty interesting book. The chapter that we wrote was about the cannabis nomenclature. So
Nice.
strain versus cultivars versus varieties or subspecies, indica, sativa, what those mean, kind of the history of the nomenclature, that kind of thing, because cannabis, terminology in cannabis is really confusing, right?
Yes, it is.
Because we've got cannabis and hemp, but hemp is cannabis. Is it cannabis like cannabis, like canis is to dog? Or is it cannabis like cannabis sativa? Or is it like what are we talking about here? And then we've got we've got THCA type hemp. That's just weed. It's not like, it's THC type cannabis. It's not hemp. Then in all of the like legal definitions and cutoffs and things, like, it gets really confusing. Then we've got sativa and indica morphology and sativa and indica effects, which nobody's found the connection between those two. I think there is, and I can explain that, not right now, but I have explained it in a couple of talks that I've given. But so that's that chapter. So if you're into how confusing cannabis language is, that would probably be a really good book to buy, because it's got really good other interesting stuff in it. And then I have another chapter in a book coming out soon. I don't remember what the book is called, but the chapter that I wrote is called Why Species Matter. And it's about like how many species are there in cannabis, and what are all the breakdowns and stuff like that. And I do talk about the cannabis sativa thing in there too.
Nice.
Mhm.
Awesome. Dr. Anna
why-
is,
Dr. Anna.
what's that?
I said, and that's why I go to Dr. Anna.
She's your library.
My living cannabis book.
That's awesome. Dr. Anna, where can people follow you on social media and get in touch with you if they want to take part in any of what you're doing or just want to reach out?
So I have it's basically my online living CV. My resume is my website. So annaschwabe.com. It has all of my publications. It has, presentations that I've given and interviews. It has all of my jobs that I do, because I think I currently have 5 jobs. So that's,
Don't we all?
that's a good place to go, and it's got links to my socials. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can follow me there. Sometimes I get quite sassy on LinkedIn, but a lot of times I post a lot of educational stuff.
Mhm.
And I am on Instagram, but I really don't visit Instagram very often. I also do a little bit of TikTokies.
Nice.
I do have a podcast called, I guess it's a webcast. It's called My Flora Fridays. It
Okay.
comes out every Friday. This week is Megan Bang, who is a cannabis nurse. Last week was Allison Justice, who is a cannabis scientist, and she's been in cultivation for years. She's awesome. But I think this is episode 22 coming up this Friday.
Nice.
So you can find that on Spotify and YouTube.
Okay.
Um,
And what's your web address one more time?
www.annaschwabe.com.
Awesome. Links will be down in the description for websites, podcasts, and everything else. Melissa, is there any social that you want to promote to keep in touch with you at all, or?
Find me on LinkedIn.
You got it. All right. Well, thank you both very, very much for being our guests tonight. Everybody in chat and online, thank you very much for attending our first all virtual meeting. I thought that was a lot of fun. Excellent discussion, and we'll definitely have you back down the road here to talk a little bit more science and cannabis.
I could talk about it all day long. I talk about it every week. So
I have no doubt. Well, thank you both again very much. To our CANM members, again, thanks for attending. Keep an eye out for announcements for the Sunland Park event that we're going to be doing. Also, keep an eye out coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to be celebrating our 1-year anniversary at the end of August, going into September, and we're going to do a big blowout, just fun event for the entire industry, not just our CANM members. So keep an eye out for that too. But thank you very much again, and we will see you all next month. All right, cool. Podcast is doing its thing on the other end, so we're off air now. So we're good. Thank you both very much. That was fun. Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely do this again. If you're up for it, I'd love to do something